On July 20th, 1969, NASA made a huge leap for mankind by landing Neil Armstrong in Apollo 11 on the moon. It was an awesome achievement by any standards, but conspiracy theories popped up soon after. The claims were that NASA faked the moon landings by the astronauts. These claims, in the mid-1970s, demanded that NASA misled the public by tampering, as well as manufacturing evidence, as well as deleting evidence in form of tapes and transmissions, both on TV and radio. Sounds exciting, huh? What is the truth? The theory that surrounds the landing on the moon is that the US was hell-bent on beating Russia to it. Allegedly, the US faked the lunar landings by having Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin act the landing on a secret film location. Since there wasn't any independent verification of the authenticity of the footage, we had to take NASA's word for it. What gave them away was Buzz Aldrin planting a fluttering flag, yet the moon is a vacuum. Where did the wind come from? NASA, in its defense, said that the twisting movement of Aldrin planting the flagpost in the soil caused the flag to flutter. It didn't matter that the astronauts had brought back soil and rock samples from the moon. The theorist went on to suggest that NASA had help from the maker of the 1968 movie 2001: A Space Odyssey, Stanley Kubrick. The theories are outrageous, but you have to admit, they critically cover all aspects. It gets more interesting. While testing out equipment for the very first moon mission, 3 astronauts died in a fire. The theory that surrounded their deaths was that the US government had killed them just before they revealed the truth about the fake landing. Talk of conspiracies. There is more to this thriller. The story NASA gave was that NASA erased them by mistake. How is that even possible, right? The single most important milestone in the history of man, and it got erased by mistake? NASA supposedly went through thousands of tapes, trying to locate the tapes. They, of course, said that they had made better digitally enhanced versions of the original photos. The theory is that the event taping was over footage relayed over satellite. Who knows what the truth is, and why NASA badly wants the tape erased? Every superpower on Earth has an obligation to provide funds towards the exploration of space. The James Webb Telescope is a telescope meant to be NASA's next-generation space telescope program. It is supposed to serve thousands of astronomers and record every phase in the history of space, such as the formation of the very first galaxies. The telescope is a joint effort between NASA, the Canadian Space Agency, and the European Space Agency. The Webb's purpose is to monitor the weather and atmosphere of the planets and the composition of the smaller objects in space. Why do we say was supposed to be launched? The fact that the launch has been pending for 20 years is the cause for suspicion and curiosity. What's going on with NASA? Why has the launch taken so many years outside the projected timeline? It is obvious something must have happened for the delay to happen. But why won't NASA come clean? Most Americans rarely remember to ask questions on such matters. The project has been around so long that some of the young scientists working on the project were born during the project's inception. Imagine working on a project as old as you are. Sounds crazy, doesn't it? The project's proposed launch was 2007, but nothing happened. NASA slated it for completion in 2016, but the launch is sadly long overdue. The initial budget was $1.5 billion. It has since gone up 17 times this budget to a total whopping $8.8 billion. The proposed launch was finally set to 2019. Will the launch happen? Only NASA can give us an answer, but we are doubtful. Only time will tell. The competition between the US and the Soviet has been in existence for as long as we can remember, with every country trying to outdo the other. This one, however, takes the cake. The US has always wanted to prove its might and dominance over the Soviet by building bigger, better machinery and conquering new territories and bodies. The US just had to prove to the Soviets who was the better one by carrying out nuclear tests on the moon. Carl Sagan was a famous astronomer. His biographers stumbled on some amazing and unbelievable intelligence dubbed Project A119, also known as the study of lunar research flights. It was top secret and a highly classified plan developed by the US Air Force. The idea was to take a nuclear bomb to the moon and detonate it. It was an insanely ambitious idea developed in the 1950s during the height of the scientific development and inflated egos. The intention was to detonate a W-25 nuclear warhead, which would have yielded 1.7 kilotons, which in comparison is smaller than an A-bomb, but deadly all the same. Carl Sagan worked on the project, but later on became a nuclear bomb critic. The project, declassified in the year 2000, was a shocker to most. The physicist, Leonard Reifel, went public about the whole saga after it became the public record. He revealed that the nuclear tests were more political than scientific, with the US trying to show the Soviets its might. The nuclear bomb's flash would be visible all the way from Earth. It would have created an enormous cloud of dust on impact and a deep crater. The moon is a vacuum. The dust cloud would have been scattered in every direction instead of the expected and normal mushroom shape. The Air Force planned to have a bomb of the same size with the Hiroshima bomb. They canceled out the possibility of a hydrogen bomb because of its weight and the 235,000-mile distance to the moon. Apparently, the US Air Force discarded the plan after weighing the pros and cons of their actions. But who really knows if this is the truth? Reifel believed that the bomb would have done little to harm the Earth, but it would deface the moon's surface. Reifel reiterates that he warned about the possible destroying of the moon's environment. Interestingly, but not shockingly, the US Air Force was only worried about the bomb's effect on Earth. What is also interesting is that Reifel used to reveal how the detonation would take place, but only insisted it was technically feasible, which raises more questions about the Air Force and NASA's role in it all. They knew if the public found out, there would be public shock and outrages at the extent of their government's need to get ahead in the race for space. It was clear that the US felt that the Soviet was far ahead in the space race. The Soviet also tried to make similar plans of detonations, although it was very hush, just like the US ones. No one knows if the test did take place. One thing is for sure, even if they actually happened, there would be absolutely no way of knowing, short of infiltrating NASA. With NASA's reputation for erasing evidence, that would be impossible. They probably already got rid of the evidence. They always seem to be a step ahead of everyone else. 1. Project Paperclip. Isn't this a weird name for a project? What exactly was this project all about? World War II was devastating. Germany, during this period, was very advanced in the art of producing V-2 rockets that were capable of a lot of damage. The details of the things that went on during world wars are like a spy novel or movie, the only difference being the events actually did happen. Truth is indeed stranger than fiction. In March of 1945, a Polish technician found a list hidden in a toilet. It found its way to M16, and then to the US intelligence. This list, named the Ausenberg List, contained a number of scientists who were marked for capture and interrogated.
I think subconsciously there must be a part of me that enjoys the onslaught of nasty comments, but the fact remains that there's way more evidence that supports the theory that we never went to the moon than there is to support that we ever did. Now, there are many reasons that prove we never went to the moon. But first, let's go back to school and get a refresher course on the different atmospheres surrounding the Earth. Now, the following information is critical to proving my point, so please bear with me. First, we have the troposphere. This is where all of our weather occurs, and it is the lowest layer of the Earth's atmosphere. It starts at the Earth's surface and extends up to a height of 4 to 10 miles. Next, we have the stratosphere, which extends to about 35 miles above the Earth's surface. This is where our ozone layer resides and protects us from those dangerous UV rays. It is also the layer where aircraft travels, as it is free from weather disturbances. Now we go up to the mesosphere, where most meteors burn up on entry. The mesosphere stretches up to 50 miles above the Earth's surface. Next, we have the thermosphere, and this layer extends up to 400 miles from the Earth's surface, and the air here is very thin. Also, temperatures here start to get really hot, ranging anywhere from 200 to 500 degrees Celsius and 500 to 2000 degrees Celsius in the upper region. And last but not least is the exosphere. The temperature in the exosphere can vary from 0 to 1700 degrees Celsius. The exosphere is the outermost layer of the Earth's atmosphere and is around 6,200 miles from the Earth's surface. Now, according to NASA, low Earth orbit is around 1,200 miles from the Earth's surface. So before I tell you the reasons why it is impossible for us to go beyond the exosphere, or for that matter, even past the thermosphere, have a listen to what some NASA experts have to say about this topic.
As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation. Radiation like this could harm the guidance systems, onboard computers, or other electronics on Orion. But Orion has protection. Shielding will be put to the test as the vehicle cuts through the waves of radiation. Sensors aboard will record radiation levels for scientists to study. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space.
Hang on. So what you're saying is that in order to send humans through this region, we need to solve the challenge of getting through the Van Allen radiation belts. But I'm confused. Didn't you already solve this challenge back in 1969 when you sent astronauts to the moon and subsequently 5 other times after that?
Once we travel beyond low Earth orbit, the crew will be exposed to larger amounts of radiation. So we have to design both the crew protection systems and our electronic systems to withstand this radiation.
So that would mean that Neil Armstrong, Michael Collins and Buzz Aldrin were a tough bunch of SOBs able to withstand all that brutal radiation, considering these challenges are still yet to be solved. So how is it that we had the technology to achieve this amazing feat back in 1969, but we're still working on the technology in 2017, almost half a century later? Well, I managed to find a very clever and well-informed astronaut that will totally straighten things out for us and explain exactly why we're not able to return to the moon and break through those Van Allen radiation belts. Have a listen to this clever chap.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
This guy, oh boy. Here's a real-life example of what can happen to you when you're exposed to all of that outer space radiation. If you're a child with aspirations of becoming an astronaut, being a very good liar might be a positive attribute to have on your resume. Now, just by showing you these admissions of guilt by NASA, I can easily end this video now, and I would have easily proven my point without a shadow of a doubt. But I'm sure that for some of you hardened skeptics out there, this damaging evidence is still not enough. So let's take this theory of mine to the next level. So this would mean that the lunar module, along with its occupants, would have disintegrated well before it even passed through the thermosphere, let alone surviving the Van Allen radiation belts in the exosphere. To protect the astronauts from the Van Allen radiation belts, the lunar module would have required 6 feet of lead shielding. But here's what they really had for protection.
Obviously, the only shielding they had was the...
In conclusion, when NASA themselves admit to never having left low Earth orbit, and the fact that we don't even have the materials that could withstand the extreme temperatures and cosmic rays in space, how on earth can anyone believe that we ever went to the moon?